power and gentleness, trust and fear. Oh my gosh. Life with our equine partners is so rich and so fulfilling and so full of paradoxes.
Welcome to the Resilient Reiner, the premier podcast focused on mental performance for equestrians and improved horse show performance. Whether you're a rookie reiner or a seasoned competitor, this show is for riders who want to take their skills to the next level and achieve their full potential in the show ring. I'm Nicole Burnett, and I'm a master mindset coach who's obsessed with helping you achieve all those horse dreams you always thought were impossible. Join me each week to develop a show-ready mindset and gain the competitive edge you need to compete with confidence.
Welcome back, friends. It's Nicole here, your host of the Resilient Reiner podcast. And if you love this podcast, share it with a friend, leave a review, leave a comment down below on iTunes. It really helps out the podcast so that I can reach even more folks with this message. And leave a comment, leave a review down below. It really helps out the podcast. I have been just thinking a lot lately. Just, sometimes you're in a pondering mood. And I've really been thinking about how life with our equine partners is so rich and so fulfilling and so full of paradoxes. And so here are 11 paradoxes that I've come across in my experience with horses. Okay, power and gentleness. This one really just comes up for me. Horses are powerful and very strong animals, and yet they really respond incredibly well to very subtle, very gentle cues, right? We know that they can feel a fly land on their back, and they feel when we shift our weight from the right hip to the left hip. And the more softly you communicate, the more effective their response. This is amazing. Trust and fear. This is another paradox. Building a relationship with your horse is based on mutual trust. And yet, both horse and rider have to overcome some pretty significant fear to establish that bond. As riders, we're taking our little brains and putting it 7 to 10 feet in the air. That's, not something brains think is very safe. And horses have to allow a predator to work with them. There's so much trust and fear. It's amazing, this paradox. And then, of course, more mental things too, right? It's not just trust and fear. There's the more that you fail, the more likely you are to succeed in working with your horse. And, it's just that success comes from improvement. And where does improvement come from? Improvement comes from failure. There's no shortcut around here, right? And you probably know how Edison tried over 10,000 different times before getting the light bulb right. You've got to fail in order to succeed. Oh, but we don't like giving up control, do we? So here's another paradox from horses. Freedom and control. Riding, we love this feeling, right? It gives such a sense of freedom and exhilaration. And yet it requires very precise control and a lot of discipline from the rider in order to achieve that feeling of freedom. All right, here's the fifth paradox. The more you learn, the more you realize how little you know, right? So thank you, Socrates. Every time you get a greater understanding, it's going to make more questions than answers. So away goes. Patience and speed. That really ties in with the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know anything, right? Patience and speed. Progress with our horses, gosh, it requires patience and time. But at the same time, when you're in the saddle, whether you're, in the show pen or you're riding at home, having, quick reactions and a certain amount of in the moment speed is also required. So patience and speed, they go together. And then the more you're afraid to fail, the more likely you are to fail. It's wild, but self-fulfilling prophecies are absolutely a thing, my friend. All right, intuition and technique. Successful riding, really, you have to blend intuitive connection with your horse and rigorous technical training. You've really got to marry those two together and marry that intuition and technique. Another paradox. It's really ties into the next paradox, which is strength and lightness. Effective riding requires strength and fitness, but the best riders make it look so effortless and so fun and light. It's like they're barely exerting themselves. Predictability and unpredictability. Horses, they're creatures of habit. They thrive on routines, and yet they're pre-animals. They can be unpredictable and react very suddenly to stimuli. And the 11th paradox, teaching and learning. As riders, we teach our horses through training, but in the process, we're often learning just as much from our horses about patience, empathy, resilience, getting humbled constantly. And so, which of these paradoxes jumps out the most to you? Well, thanks so much for being here, friends. And I can't wait to talk to you soon. If you love this episode, share it with a friend. If you hated it, send it to your enemies. Talk later. Happy trails.